On this channel, I try to highlight video games with great stories, games with symbolism, psychological complexity, and heavy themes. On that note, let's talk about Bubsy 3D, a true masterpiece of emotional storytelling. Not because the story, nor really anything about the game itself is worth discussing, by the way. It's famously one of the biggest pieces of crap that the games industry ever produced. A game that triggers my neuroatypical stimulus like a smoke alarm just by looking at it. I'm dead serious. That said, there is an emotionally fulfilling story behind Bubsy 3D. If a game developer released a game like Bubsy 3D today, that would not only kill your studio, it would kill any chance of you working in the business ever again. Luckily for the developers behind the game, Eidetic, they were given one last chance. Though their 3D platformer failed in every conceivable way to live up to the standards of Super Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot, Sony said, "Sure, we like losing money, try again. Only this time, we want you to develop a stealth action game, one that could compete with Metal Gear Solid and GoldenEye." Yeah. You think spending $400 million on Concord was a bad decision by Sony? Bro, they've been making decisions like this since the majority of you were born. Luckily for Sony though, their stupid bet paid off. The developers at Eidetic regrouped, acknowledged their failings, and made one of the greatest comebacks in the history of the gaming medium. Gabe, cue the Zap montage.
Damn it! My god, Syphon filter.
Yes, it's quite remarkable.
Yes, it is, Markinson, but not as many gamers know how remarkable Syphon Filter really is. This is what happens when you release only a few months after Metal Gear Solid 1. Not only is it going to eat into your sales, every review is going to compare you to MGS alongside other gaming titans at the time, like the aforementioned GoldenEye. Yet even though almost every reviewer said it falls short of those games, they almost universally acknowledged Syphon Filter as a strong competitor in the stealth action genre. But what most people don't realize, even fans of Syphon Filter, is that it wasn't just a sillier, cheaper alternative to its competitors. It set technical standards at the time. It was one of the first action games to let you move and fight in third-person view, then let you switch to first-person view when you wanted to aim your gun. Though mech games like Earthsiege 2 did this first, that was for the mech genre. Syphon Filter was a pioneer in the stealth action genre. It had some of the best enemy AI at the time, reacting organically to the sound of gunshots, taking cover, and moving in to take advantage of your vulnerability. But the most impressive thing about Syphon Filter isn't what it invented. It's how it feels. While its story and voice acting haven't aged gracefully, like at all, certainly not compared to Metal Gear Solid 1, I would argue that its gameplay holds up as well, if not better, than MGS1. And that's saying something coming from the world's biggest MGS fanboy right here. It's a massive comeback. And sure, there have been some incredible comebacks in gaming. Cyberpunk 2077, No Man's Sky, Final Fantasy XIV, hello, but those were games that improved themselves through patches and updates. Eidetic went from one of the worst games ever made to a genre-defining classic in one leap. That's hard to top. Today, I want to look back at the original Syphon Filter, why it was special at the time, and the numerous ways it holds up today. Before I do, make sure to hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. And if you like the content I produce here and want to help ensure its continued production, please consider supporting me on Patreon or joining my YouTube membership section. I will leave links to both in the description box below. Now, let's begin with a brief synopsis of the story. Wow, this is embarrassing. Normally, the easiest part of making my videos is the synopsis, but I just finished the game and I don't know what the hell it was about. Sorry, let's just watch the intro again real quick so I can figure this out.
They are coming. Go, torch it. Burn it all.
But what about the serum?
That voice acting is just music to my ears, man. Okay, I know that's Gabe Logan and Leon Zing. Those are the two main characters.
It's Ellis. Executed.
Who's Alice?
Leon, you find anything?
The place is torched. I don't know what they were growing, but it wasn't narcotics.
Romer knew we were coming.
Wait, slow down. Who's Romer? Oh, now we're in Washington, D.C. Great. What was that all about?
Find Romer.
I understand.
Wait, who's Romer? Is he the bad guy? Who does he work for? Oh, we're in Nepal now. Great.
Our WHO contact was correct. Everyone within 100 miles is dead.
Yeah, it's like 100 below.
This man is still alive.
How is that possible?
It's not.
It's a conspiracy! Okay, so now we're gonna get some, like, clarifying... What?! Was that, like, their attempt at doing, like, a Deus Ex type intro? Like, what the hell's going on? Who did... What? Did the menu screen just spoil a character death? I didn't notice that the first time. Hold on! Who was Fagin? Oh yeah, they literally spoiled that one of the main villains is going to die in the menu screen. Wow, that's amazing. That's somehow worse than like when the soundtrack for the Phantom Menace released before the movie and one of the tracks was called Qui-Gon's Noble End. No, that really happened. Look it up. Okay, maybe when we start a new game, we'll get more info. Alright, this is better. So we're US agents fighting terrorists who are trying to commit a biological attack. Now we're getting somewhere. Our targets are Romer, Kravich, Aramov, and Gurda. Okay, who are they and who do they work for? Well, it doesn't seem to say here. Okay, that's fine. Maybe they'll tell us more in a cutscene?
When does the operation begin?
Our intelligence within the FBI was not clear, but Romer's men are already inside the subway.
Who's
Is it the same virus?
Yes.
Why are they talking so fast?
I recognize Anton Gurdu and Mara Aramov. Who's the other one?
Pavel Kravich.
Okay, so those are the guys we have to kill, but who are they? Are they Russian or did they go rogue or what? I wrote better fan fiction when I was in elementary school, dude. So we don't know who we're fighting. We already know the secondary antagonist is going to die. And with the little information we do get, we have to listen to some of the worst voice acting in video game history. Bested maybe only by the original Resident Evil.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
And you thought that was bad? The wooden delivery and the fact that there's no pause in between lines spoken? Get ready for 6 more hours of that.
Where's Romer? Where are the other bombs?
You're too late, Logan.
We'll see.
They speak and jump between subjects so quickly that the script has no room to breathe. So anyway, the gameplay is awesome! It's really cool because on the one hand, it feels weirdly modern for a PS1 game released in 1999. Like I said before, it felt really novel at the time to switch between third-person combat and first-person aiming, where nowadays we take this sort of thing for granted. But on the other hand, because these mechanics were virtually new, there was a certain degree of PS1 jank with the controls, but it actually works in the game's favor. It's similar in a way to how the clunky, restrictive combat in the original Silent Hill games helped make things more horrifying. Syphon Filter's control scheme features a good deal of this positive clunkiness. First, there's the camera's point of view. It's derivative of the original Tomb Raider games, an influence that the developers of Syphon Filter admit to. It's always pointing forward, which makes it difficult to shoot enemies that aren't directly in front of you. Thankfully, the game introduces a few mechanics that help make this engaging and intense, rather than frustrating. First is the danger meter. Anytime you encounter an enemy, even if they are directly behind you, they're almost never going to land a shot on you right away. They only will when the danger meter is full. If it does fill up all the way, you better start praying because you will lose all your life within 2 or 3 seconds if you can't reach cover and fight back. To avoid damage, you can press the roll button, which sometimes helps and sometimes doesn't. In most cases though, you will want to use the lock-on feature. By pressing R1, Gabe will automatically lock onto the enemy, which bypasses the archaic issue of the camera not turning fast enough. Though one might suspect that this would make the game really easy, the game circumvents this possibility in 3 key ways. If you're facing more than one enemy, you have to take them down very quick if you're out in the open, or risk losing a substantial amount of health. Second, if you're locked onto an enemy, but you're running adjacent to them or in the opposite direction, it's harder to land shots. Third, some of these enemies might be wearing flak jackets. This means that it takes longer to kill them if you're just locking onto them and shooting. Instead, what you'll want to do is try and aim at the enemy's head. But even this carries some risks because the enemies will sometimes run around. All of this keeps the gameplay feeling dynamic and pulse-pounding, but most importantly, it never feels unfair. Admittedly, anybody who has never heard about Syphon Filter might hear about all these extra button prompts and mechanics and be put off, but thankfully, the game doesn't overwhelm you with this right away. The first level eases you into everything with pure, uncomplicated fun. You are given a bunch of terrorists, a huge arsenal of weapons, and a trigger finger that needs some exercise. You can use a shotgun, a machine gun, a silenced pistol, a sniper rifle, but honestly, you're not going to need any of those, because in the first level, you are given what I genuinely believe is the greatest weapon in video game history. And its greatness can be summarized in one word.
Zap!
The taser is the most elegant, the most exquisite, delectable, sumptuous video game weapon ever. Screw the gravity gun, to hell with the BFG, and f the Halo 1 pistol. The taser beats them all. What is supposed to be a non-lethal alternative for subduing perps was repurposed into a long-distance barbecue tool. And I think I speak for all Syphon Filter fans when I say that I like my terrorist meat well done.
Zap! Zap! Zap!
Oh!
Who's that Pokemon? It's Zapdos!
You know what's even more ridiculous than this? Is that the game somehow got rated T for teen. T for teen! With all this blood, guts, and barbecued ass everywhere. Okay, but if I may put aside the silliness for a second, the taser is actually a perfect microcosm of what makes Syphon Filter so brilliant despite its failings. Just like the game's story and voice acting, the taser is over-the-top ridiculous, but it leans so beautifully into that 90s spy thriller cheese that it becomes part of the charm. You didn't go see the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies for the plot, say for GoldenEye. You went there for the gadgets, the explosions, the stunts, while Syphon Filter works the same way. In both cases, the story is merely a vehicle to the fun. And once you're actually having that fun, all the problems with the story and the acting become ethereal. And the taser is the best tool to get you there. Of all the memories I had playing video games on the PlayStation 1 in my youth, the greatest one is admittedly still probably Psycho Mantis reading your memory card in Metal Gear Solid 1, but a very close second would be the taser. And speaking of 90s action cheese, you always need a shot of the hero running away from an explosion.
Wait. Leon, this one's different from the others. It has a shorter timer, and it looks...
Hey, that's not viral. It's
too late.
Yeah, that voice acting sucked, but do I care? No, and neither should you, because that was badass. The next couple of levels lean into the ridiculousness. There are times where you will have to defend members of the bomb disposal squad from terrorists. I think part of the reason why the developers had other people disarm the bombs and not just have Gabe do it himself was to sort of humanize him, to show that he needs other people to help him. The problem is that this one example is completely negated when everything that Gabe does feels superhuman. Take, for example, what Gabe does when he tries to climb out of the burning wreckage. Look how high this dude jumps! He's got hops that would make Michael Jordan jealous, or at least make Wesley Snipes shut up.
White men can't jump.
The reality-defying logic grows in level 3, when you're chasing a terrorist named Aramov through a connected subway line. If this were real life, you and I know that every train would be shut down until the threat was eliminated. But again, you don't care because fun always takes precedence over logic. And right after the first level, the difficulty starts to spike, so now you care more about living than you do about logic. In level 4, you have to find 4 bombs and disarm them while you're on a time limit, and are having to face multiple mobs of enemies coming out of the darkness. In level 5, you have to fight a boss named Gurdu. Much like the bosses in Metal Gear Solid, this boss has a gimmick, where you have to figure out his specific weakness. In this case, because he wields a flamethrower, his weakness is the fuel tank on his back. Speaking of Metal Gear, by the way, some people might have noticed a slight similarity between this boss and Vulcan Raven from MGS1. There is a rumor that the Syphon Filter developers changed Gurdu's weapon from a Gatling gun to a flamethrower after they saw a trailer for MGS1, just to avoid comparison. But outside of this, I'm not aware of the developers of Syphon Filter deliberately creating the game or changing anything about it in response to MGS1, which would have been difficult already given that they were both being developed at the same time. Syphon Filter genuinely did its best to provide its own take on the stealth action genre. Though granted, up until this point there hasn't been much in the way of stealth, but then we enter level 6. This level takes place at an exposition center. Here, Gabe has to quietly follow the executive of a multinational pharmaceutical corporation, whom he suspects has ties to terrorism. For the first third of the level, Gabe has to quietly follow the guy while taking out all the bodyguards in his way and not get caught. If he does, he has to start from the beginning. Now up until this point, the difficulty has been ramping up, but it's here that there is a significant spike. But at no point does it feel brutal, cheap, or unfair. If you get caught because you missed the headshot while a guy is walking, or they see you in their peripheral vision, or you were moving too fast, you know exactly what you have to do for next time. The game is tasking you with being absolutely precise. And when you are, you get the same feeling that you get when you, say, are playing Guitar Hero on expert difficulty and you play a song with no mistakes. It is the perfect example of empowering carrot and stick gameplay. On that note, the level also puts forward a couple of puzzles to test the player's ingenuity. Take for instance this moment where Gabe has to get to an upper floor, but the elevator won't go up to that floor for some reason. To get there, Gabe has to shoot the switch up above. Normally, to figure this out, the game will maybe show a brief cutscene where the camera will pan from the character to the solution, or there'll be a piece of dialogue hinting at what to do. Instead, the environment tries to spell it out for the player by having the switch emit sparks, suggesting that there's something special about that switch. This trust in the player carries on to later in the level where Gabe has to stop a terrorist from shooting the pharmaceutical executive. However, he can't kill the terrorist while doing so, but he also has no non-lethal option. Instead, the player must conclude that they have to shoot the gun out of the terrorist's hand. Although I fail to see how shooting a gun out of the woman's hand causes her to faint. Maybe Gabe minored in bullet-based chiropractic medicine at the military academy. I don't know. Staying on the subject of empowering the gamer, Level 7 finally lets the gamer decide how they want to play. If you like the heavy stealth gameplay of the last level, you could do that again. And better yet, you don't have to worry about starting over again if you get caught. However, if you do get caught, you will have to face down endless waves of enemies until the next level. And they can be so relentless that for some people, you'll just want to restart at the next checkpoint. But if you didn't care for how slow things were in the last level, you might prefer constantly shooting. But be warned, this is where Syphon Filter's AI really starts to show its teeth. I will note once again that the AI in this game, for 1999, was stellar. Reviews point to how enemies will roll, crouch, sidestep, and run to evade your fire. They'll even attempt to sneak up and ambush you, and will react if a comrade of theirs is killed nearby. Some will even run and hide as soon as they spot you. Though virtually every review at the time also compared Syphon Filter to Metal Gear Solid and GoldenEye, this combination of choice, consequence, and technical sophistication really helps to nullify the need for those comparisons in the first place. With Metal Gear Solid, if you get spotted, you run away and hide behind a crate until the guards forget you're there. If you get spotted in GoldenEye, you can either shoot your way out, reload the level, or retry with a better route. It's about execution of an initial plan. In Syphon Filter, the combination of the unique missions, the structuring of the levels, and the enemy AI leads to a variety of dynamic encounters where you're forced to adapt on the fly. In a way, Syphon Filter kind of feels like a rough draft for the type of player freedom found in immersive simulators like Deus Ex. It wasn't fully realized in the Syphon Filter games, but it helped lay the groundwork for all games with a stealth action component. And while GoldenEye and MGS were integral in that regard, no pun intended, Syphon Filter simply does not get enough credit for this as well. The gameplay nails the 90s secret agent fantasy so effectively that by this point in the game, my attitude towards the story and the acting started to change. It still wasn't good, but it didn't have to be. Like with a lot of the spy movies from the 90s, you start to enjoy Syphon Filter's story and acting because it's cheesy, because it's poorly slapped together. Once again, because the feel, the whole vibe of the game is so strong, you stop caring about these flaws. You just go with the flow, and the story becomes part of the charm instead of a problem. And honestly, the title of the game represents this ethic perfectly. Syphon Filter is a cool, intriguing, sexy name like Octopussy or Zamboni. But what actually is Syphon Filter? Well, soon after the snow-based level, Gabe finds out that it's a bioweapon that one can program to target specific groups of people based on their DNA. Honestly, such a concept makes me wonder if people who ship Cloud and Aerith together is a genetic aberration and could be eliminated. But the point is, it's a stereotypical 90s action thriller superweapon, something that real science wouldn't be able to perfect for centuries, if ever. But within the game, it's perfect. And the game runs with this all the way to the end. We eventually discover that the aforementioned Romer and his terrorist organization were responsible for the creation of Syphon Filter. And now it is our duty to go on a globe-trotting adventure to eliminate him and the virus altogether. This takes us to places like a research facility disguised as a church, with guards dressed as monks wielding machine guns. You'll shoot perfectly placed chandeliers to blow dudes up, jump through stained-glass windows because I promise there was no other way for Gabe to escape the building. Bad guys will switch sides, people you thought were dead are still alive. Literally every cliche you can imagine. But it's so ridiculous that you can't help but be entertained.
I have him.
Give him 30 seconds to give you the location of the computers, then eliminate
No,
him.
wait a minute. You don't understand. You
Thousands
don't...
of people are dead faking because of you. 20 seconds.
Wait, you don't understand.
Time's up. Where are the sequencing computers?
An abandoned Soviet missile silo in Kazakhstan, beneath an old warehouse district, all right? All right?
Like, how can you not find this entertaining? It's so bad that it's glorious. 20 seconds, literally 1 second later. Time's up. It's absolute cinema. And honestly, the story kind of ends the same way it has operated up until this point. Fast, disjointed, absurd, but when you're running through burning buildings and trying to detonate a rocket mid-orbit, you're having too much fun to care. And then, Syphon Filter 2 starts right where the first game ends. And thankfully, the game addressed all the first game's problems. It tightens the writing, deepens the characters, expands the world, improves the voice acting, albeit not substantially, and it actually earns the serious tone that the first game was aiming for but missed beautifully. But at no point does it ever lose that sense of ridiculous joy. Especially when Gabe somehow manages to have more plot armor than Kenny from South Park. Spoiler alert, but he literally dives off a bridge as it is blown up by helicopter missiles, and then he somehow manages to survive by landing on the train below. No, not with a parachute, he just falls from that height without a single fracture. I swear, it's like the laws of physics just gave up on this man. He literally doesn't have time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Syphon Filter 3 was a solid game, but it was just more of the same. And then unfortunately, the series took a major hit with its subsequent subpar release. Even though the two PSP games that followed were generally well received, it was not enough to give the series the plaudits it always deserved. It's so strange because there were plenty of other stealth action games that were successful at the time. I haven't even mentioned Splinter Cell, which was legendary. There were even other James Bond games that, while not as good as GoldenEye, were still beloved by those who appreciated them. Honestly, Nightfire is so dreadfully underrated. There was Hitman, Deus Ex, Tenchu, Manhunt, but for whatever reason, Syphon Filter never penetrated the pop culture consciousness in the same way, nor did it ever reach their level of success. This blows my mind, because Syphon Filter did things that were just as innovative, ambitious, but above all, fun. I suppose it was just a matter of timing. It did release only a few months after Metal Gear Solid, and that quickly became one of the best-selling games on the PS1 and one of the most beloved games of all time. Syphon Filter is not the type of game I normally cover on this channel. It doesn't have a story chock full of symbolism, psychology, or philosophical subtext. It's not quote-unquote profound. But what is profound is how completely the gameplay transcends all of that. It didn't have as good a story as all its contemporaries, but because it felt so good to play, so responsive, so dynamic, I argue that it holds up better than at least half the prestige games which released at the time. And coming from the studio that made Bubsy 3D, that's not just profound, that's miraculous. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like, that helps me out more than you know. And if you liked my analysis, I can guarantee that you will like these other videos that you see on screen now. Until next time, remember to stay safe and stay yellow.
Zzz.